And for some insight into the Libya conflict, Don DeBar, an anti-war activist and journalist, joins us live from the U.S. Now, thank you for being with us in these very interesting times. As we've heard, Gaddafi claims leaving his compound was part of a bigger plan. Is this really the case, or is he just trying to save face?
Well, first of all, let's look at the claims put forth from both sides. Starting Friday last in the afternoon, NBC started broadcasting the claim that Gaddafi and his family had left Libya and were in Tunisia. This was picked up by the Western media across the board on Saturday and for a good part of Sunday. And then suddenly on Sunday afternoon, Gaddafi was in Tripoli. And then Sunday till Monday, they said that they had captured 3 of Gaddafi's sons, and they said they were in control of 80 to 95%, depending on whose report you were looking at, of Tripoli. As it turns out, the 3 Gaddafi sons have all appeared. 2 of them have physically appeared on media, and Saif al-Islami said that all of his brothers were with his father last night on CNN. So the claims that have been put forth, and by the way, he also offered to drive a CNN reporter around in the SUV that he was driving around Tripoli in, while the rebels were supposedly in control of 80 to 95% of Tripoli. Now, what was interesting is that these same reporters have been locked down for several days now in their hotel. A good number of them spend most of their time in the hotel. Unfortunately, in Tripoli, they don't get to spend their time at the bar, which is the preoccupation of many of them. But some of the reporters, like, for example, Lizzie Phelan, who spent a good part of this year, 2 or 3 months, in Tripoli and has spent much time in Libya prior to that, have contacts on the ground and have been able to find out by calling people from neighborhood to neighborhood what's going on there. And rather than finding 90%, 80%, 95% of Tripoli under the control of the rebels, who in fact are Qatari irregulars that are being run by their Qatari officers in uniform, she found that the government was in control of most of the city, and that she said she heard from several parts of the city that there are dead Qataris on the streets of Tripoli. So, whatever Colonel Gaddafi is claiming, it's difficult to verify or not, and time will tell. But certainly what's been coming from the Western media has been proven to be lies.
What we're finding out is that the information is always changing. It is a very fluid situation on the ground. In fact, we're hearing that right now, Gaddafi is apparently using Grad rockets to attack rebel positions. Do you think that it is possible that there could be a large-scale counteroffensive from forces loyal to Gaddafi still in the works?
Well, one thing to keep in mind is that, it's been a while now that Gaddafi opened up the armories to the people of Libya, and in particular Tripoli, where more than 1 million rifles and other arms were handed out to the people of Tripoli. Now, first of all, the claim that has been made wall to wall from the so-called progressive media in the United States, such as Democracy Now!, Pacifica Radio, and others, all the way through to Fox, that Gaddafi is a hated dictator and that this is an indigenous rebellion. Of course, a dictator doesn't hand the people guns and say, please defend me. So what's interesting is that this has more the appearance of a large-scale Bay of Pigs, where the invaders are being enticed to come in and engage the people on the ground, than it does for some sort of a people's rebellion backed by the United States, which by itself would be a remarkable event if that were true.
Kind of a double question, combining 2 questions, if you will. Bear with me. If at the end of all of this, the rebels do come out on top, is there anyone in place that can actually be capable of running this new state? And also, is it possible even of installing a new democracy at the barrel of a gun?
Well, obviously installing a democracy at the barrel of a gun, particularly at the barrel of an imperial gun, would be quite a remarkable feat if it were possible or if it were to happen. The interesting thing to keep in mind about all of that would be that, first of all, the rebels themselves have been purging themselves. Jalil essentially has taken charge of the entire operation. He fired the Minister of Information. He fired the head of the military, or killed the head of the military, if you're going to believe the reports that people have been circulating. The entire council essentially was purged, and Jalil is the guy. So, which makes this look more, by the way, like a coup than a rebellion or a revolution. But given the history of their own problems, and given the fact that the United States and the European former colonial, soon-to-be the re-colonial powers of North Africa, if they have their way, are the ones that are calling the shots, I don't know that Jalil's opinion is going to matter much either. I mean, they're already sitting down and trying to parcel up oil contracts and such before there's even been a settlement of the political question there.
Now, you mentioned the colonial powers, and there has been a lot of criticism on the ground about Western intervention in this situation. In your opinion, how likely is NATO to continue its involvement in the country once this is all over?
Well, just at the head of that, I would like to thank the Russian Foreign Minister, Lavrov, for not jumping on the bandwagon to recognize this group of invaders basically as the legitimate government of Libya, which at the moment is a somewhat remarkable position given how people have lined up to do that, unless that's changed in the last hour or two. But in terms of what's happening there, I'm sorry, could you repeat the question? I lost it.
Well, no, just whether you believe that NATO is going to try and keep their hands in the end game once the actual revolution has finished and subsided.
Well, the game is NATO's game. Without NATO, the so-called rebellion would have been put to bed back in February or early March. And by the way, people should understand that that's how long this has been going on. The Pakistan Observer reported on February 25th that U.S., U.K., and French troops had landed in Benghazi in the 23rd and 24th of February, which is almost a full month before UN resolutions of 1970 and 1973 were passed. So this has been a military exercise by NATO, or really by the United States and its allies. And by the way, on that point, I'd like to keep in mind that in Côte d'Ivoire, France has already started. They carried the president of Côte d'Ivoire out of his palace at gunpoint. They've already started trying to reestablish their colonial influence in North Africa. So it seems to me that, coupled with the establishment of AFRICOM in October of 2008 from Stuttgart, Germany, and the active role that AFRICOM has played in this particular adventure, it's pretty clear that this is a colonial project, and its intent is to control the resources and people of Africa.
All right. Thank you very much. That was journalist and activist Don DeBar joining us live from New York. And, of course, we appreciate you taking some time.